I want to recount my experience with my beloved wife, Kimberly, whom I've been married to for 5 eventful years. However, amidst the joy, there lies a shadow of betrayal that has cast a pall over our relationship. Kimberly, unfortunately, has been unfaithful. Yet, rather than succumbing to despair, I have devised a plan to confront this betrayal head-on. Upon discovering her infidelity, I chose to cloak my knowledge, allowing her to continue unaware of my awareness. It was a delicate game, observing her closely as she navigated the facade of our marriage, all the while harboring the truth within me. And then, in a moment of reckoning, I unveiled the depths of my knowledge to her, watching as the realization dawned upon her, a tumult of emotions playing across her features. My name is Anthony, a 35-year-old business manager entrenched in the bustling metropolis. My wife, Kimberly, a 30-year-old entrepreneur, had seemingly found solace in the arms of another, our new neighbor, Jason. His arrival into our neighborhood marked the beginning of a tumultuous chapter in our lives, one rife with heartache and betrayal. But before I delve further into the intricacies of our shattered union, allow me to rewind to the genesis of our love story. Kimberly and I first crossed paths at an auspicious event, her best friend's aunt's wedding, a serendipitous occasion where our worlds collided. Though fleeting, our initial encounter left an indelible mark upon my heart. It was not until fate intervened once more, leading us to reunite at a charitable fundraiser, that our connection blossomed. Amidst laughter and shared moments, I seized the opportunity to procure her contact details, igniting a flame that would soon engulf us both. Life, for a time, unfolded in harmonious synchrony. I dedicated long hours to my role within the sales department, while Kimberly pursued her entrepreneurial endeavors with fervor. Yet, amidst the hustle and bustle of city life, cracks began to form within the foundation of our union. The arrival of Jason, our charming yet treacherous neighbor, served as the catalyst for upheaval, unraveling the fabric of trust that we had meticulously woven over the years. Betrayal, they say, cuts deeper than any blade, and indeed, the revelation of Kimberly's infidelity plunged me into a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. However, in the midst of turmoil, a steely resolve began to take root within me. Rather than succumbing to despair, I chose to confront the betrayal head-on, determined to hold both Kimberly and Jason accountable for their actions. On the flip side of the coin, my wife, a tenacious entrepreneur, stands as my equal in the realm of career pursuits. Together, we have forged a path of financial stability, eschewing the traditional trappings of parenthood for the time being, recognizing the inherent challenges of providing adequate attention to potential offspring amidst our frenetic work routines. Despite the chaos of our professional lives, we remain steadfast in our commitment to nurturing our bond, setting aside dedicated time for regular dates and shared experiences. Kim and I have weathered storms together, supporting each other through the ebbs and flows of life. Our relationship, once thought to be unassailable, now stands on shaky ground as I grapple with the stark revelation that everything I held dear may have been nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. The signs were subtle at first, mere whispers of doubt that fluttered at the edges of my consciousness. Yet, as Kim's behavior grew increasingly erratic, late nights spent away from home, excuses that fell flat upon closer scrutiny, the truth could no longer be ignored. Despite my initial reluctance to confront the mounting evidence, I could no longer turn a blind eye to the glaring inconsistencies in Kim's behavior. With a heavy heart and a gnawing sense of apprehension, I broached the subject, hoping against hope that my suspicions were unfounded. Yet her dismissive responses and thinly veiled excuses only served to deepen my unease, leaving me teetering on the precipice of disbelief and betrayal. In the face of uncertainty, I find solace in the memories of our shared moments, the laughter and love that once illuminated our path. My admiration for Kim, once unwavering in its fervor, now wavers under the weight of suspicion, yet still rooted in a deep-seated affection that refuses to be extinguished. Though the road ahead may be fraught with uncertainty, I cling to the hope that amidst the shadows of deception, the light of truth will ultimately prevail, illuminating the path to redemption and reconciliation. In retrospect, I find myself grappling with the realization that I unwittingly assumed the role of the submissive partner in my marriage. It's a bitter pill to swallow, admitting to the world that my trust was so unwavering, so blind, that I failed to see the betrayal unfolding right before my eyes. The truth stings, leaving me feeling exposed and vulnerable, a mere pawn in a game of deceit orchestrated by the one person I held closest to my heart. The sheer audacity of my wife's actions leaves me reeling with disbelief. To think that she would brazenly embark on an affair, and with none other than our neighbor, adds a surreal twist to this sordid tale. It's as if the fabric of reality has been torn asunder, revealing a dark underbelly of deception lurking beneath the facade of domestic bliss. As for how I stumbled upon the truth, it was a harrowing journey fraught with uncertainty and trepidation. It began 2 weeks ago, a mere whisper of suspicion gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. I sought solace in the counsel of friends, who, recognizing the gravity of the situation, urged me to enlist the services of a private investigator. Initially, I balked at the idea, wrestling with the moral implications of spying on my own wife. But as the days stretched into weeks, and the weight of my suspicions threatened to suffocate me, I realized that desperate times called for desperate measures. Confronted with the grim reality that cheaters seldom confess their sins willingly, I knew that the onus was on me to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. And so, with a heavy heart and a resolve born of necessity, I made the fateful decision to engage the services of a professional. It was a clandestine operation, shrouded in secrecy, as I navigated the delicate balance between maintaining appearances and ferreting out the truth. My job, with its demanding schedule and relentless demands, posed a formidable obstacle to my quest for answers. It was clear that I could not undertake this mission alone, and thus, I entrusted the task to a seasoned investigator whose expertise proved invaluable in navigating the murky waters of infidelity undetected. Under the guise of a gatekeeper, the investigator seamlessly integrated himself into our lives, his presence going unnoticed by all but myself. My wife, oblivious to the true nature of his role, accepted his presence without question, providing me with the perfect cover to pursue my inquiries unhindered. It wasn't until one such weekend that I managed to carve out a sliver of time to touch base with the investigator. His report was both damning and revelatory, a testament to the depths of deceit lurking within the confines of my own home. With a heavy heart, I listened as he detailed the meticulous surveillance that had uncovered Kim's clandestine liaisons with our neighbor, Jason. The evidence, he assured me, was irrefutable. Photographs capturing Kim's furtive comings and goings, videos documenting her elaborate charade of deceit. Yet, it was one particular revelation that struck me like a thunderbolt, shattering the fragile illusion of trust that had once bound us together. Despite her meticulously crafted facade of innocence, Kim's actions spoke volumes, betraying the depths of her duplicity. The realization that my own wife had been carrying on an affair under my very nose with the man next door was a bitter pill to swallow, a cruel twist of fate that left me reeling with disbelief. In the ensuing days, as I grappled with the magnitude of her betrayal, a steely resolve began to take root within me, fueled by a potent mix of anger and determination. I knew then, in the depths of my heart, that I could not simply turn a blind eye to her transgressions, nor could I allow her deceit to go unpunished. And so, after days of contemplation and soul-searching, I resolved to confront her with the truth, to strip away the veneer of lies and expose the ugly truth lurking beneath. But vengeance, I realized, was a dish best served cold. I harbored no illusions of grandeur, no desire for petty retribution. Instead, I sought to mete out justice with a precision born of careful planning, to watch as the walls of her carefully constructed facade crumbled around her. My plan, though still in its infancy, was a labyrinth of intricacies, a web of deceit spun with meticulous care. I would begin by dropping subtle hints, planting seeds of doubt that would take root in her mind, slowly driving her to the brink of madness with uncertainty. And when the time was ripe, when her defenses were at their lowest ebb, I would strike, unveiling the full extent of my knowledge, and watching as she grappled with the consequences of her actions. The updates from my private investigator paint a damning picture, each new revelation more grotesque than the last. Just a few days ago, I found myself staring at nearly a dozen incriminating photographs, each one a stark reminder of the betrayal that had been unfolding right under my nose. Filled with a potent mix of anger and disbelief, I stormed into the living room, my heart pounding with righteous indignation. Without affording her the opportunity to utter a single word, I confronted her with the damning evidence that lay before me. But what transpired next defied all expectations. Instead of cowering in guilt or attempting to defend her actions, Kim had the audacity to make a brazen demand for money. The sheer gall of her request left me speechless, my mind reeling with incredulity. In a fit of rage, I lashed out, my actions fueled by a cocktail of fury and betrayal. With trembling hands, I thrust the incriminating photographs into her grasp, watching with a mixture of satisfaction and disgust as the color drained from her face. What struck me most in that moment was the look of surprise that flickered across her features, a fleeting glimpse of guilt that betrayed the depths of her deception. It was a sobering realization, a harsh reminder that the woman I had once trusted implicitly was capable of such callous disregard for our vows. Yet, even as I grappled with the magnitude of her betrayal, Kim remained defiant, her indifference a bitter pill to swallow. In her eyes, I saw no hint of remorse, no flicker of contrition, only a cold, calculated indifference that served to fuel the flames of my anger. And so, as I stand at the precipice of this newfound revelation, I am filled with a steely resolve to make her pay for the pain she has inflicted upon me. No longer will I allow her deceit to go unchecked. No longer will I be a passive bystander in my own undoing. In the throes of our altercation, Kim's behavior took a sinister turn, her actions bordering on the calculated and manipulative. With a chilling sense of foreboding, I watched as she deliberately goaded me, her attempts to provoke a physical altercation painfully transparent. It was a brazen ploy, an orchestrated effort to push me to the brink and provide her with the ammunition she needed to paint me as the aggressor. But even in the heat of the moment, I remained steadfast, refusing to succumb to her provocations. With a steely resolve, I kept my hands firmly behind my back, a silent testament to my refusal to be drawn into her web of deception. I knew all too well the consequences of succumbing to her bait, the specter of domestic issues looming large, threatening to shatter the fragile semblance of normalcy that remained. In the aftermath of our confrontation, I made a decision that would alter the course of our relationship irreversibly. With a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, I made it clear that our union was no longer tenable, severing the ties that bound us together in a final, decisive gesture. Yet, even as I uttered the words, Kim's arrogance remained undimmed, her disbelief palpable as she dismissed my ultimatum as a mere bluff. But her arrogance, far from dissuading me, only served to stoke the flames of my determination. It was a stark reminder of the depths of my own naivety, a wake-up call to the harsh realities of our fractured relationship. And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, I took my leave, retreating into the solitude of my own thoughts as I grappled with the enormity of what had transpired. Upon my return the following day, I was met with a surreal scene. Kim, unfazed by the turmoil of the previous day, greeted me with a mundane complaint about the state of our pantry. Her audacity was staggering, her attempts to normalize our fractured relationship ringing hollow in the wake of her betrayal. With a sense of grim determination, I wasted no time in reclaiming what little semblance of control remained. Swiftly and decisively, I purged our shared space of her presence, casting her belongings out into the unforgiving embrace of the night. Yet, even as I embarked on this cathartic purge, Kim's absence was conspicuous, her whereabouts a mystery that lingered like a specter in the air. Yet, even as I sought to distance myself from her increasingly erratic behavior, Kim's desperation reached a fever pitch, her attempts to claw at my face a stark reminder of the depths of her madness. In a moment of self-preservation, I pushed her away, the force of my actions propelling her to the ground with a resounding thud. And when the truth finally spilled forth from my lips, when I confessed to the incendiary act that had reduced her possessions to ash, Kim's reaction bordered on the hysterical. Tears streamed down her face as she issued threats and ultimatums, her attempts to manipulate me falling on deaf ears. In a show of defiance, I took hold of her trembling hands and led her outside, my grip firm and unyielding. It was a calculated move, a deliberate choice to bring our private drama into the harsh light of day, where the prying eyes of our neighbors bore witness to the unraveling of our once idyllic union. The commotion we stirred drew a crowd, a throng of curious onlookers eager to feast upon the spectacle unfolding before them. And as Kim's cries pierced the air, I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction, a vindication of sorts for the years of silent suffering I had endured at her hands. I won't deny it, dear readers. There was a certain satisfaction in leaving behind visible marks of my displeasure, a silent testament to the depths of my resentment. And as the whispers of disapproval swirled around us, I remained steadfast in my resolve, unmoved by the judgment of those who dared to cast aspersions upon my actions. But what truly beggared belief was the audacity of the man who dared to emerge from the safety of his own home to bear witness to our tumultuous exchange. Yes, dear readers, none other than Jason, Kim's illicit lover, had the gall to insert himself into our private drama, a brazen display of arrogance that only served to fuel the flames of my righteous anger. With a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, I made the announcement that would forever alter the course of our lives. Kim, standing beside me, trembled visibly, her facade of confidence crumbling in the face of public humiliation. I knew all too well the depth of her pride, her aversion to shame and disgrace. And so, as I laid bare the reality of her infidelity before our assembled neighbors, I watched with a mixture of satisfaction and disdain as the color drained from her face. There was no denying the truth now. Jason, the man with whom she had betrayed our vows, stood before her, his own shock mirroring that of our onlookers. In a fit of rage, fueled by a potent mix of betrayal and anger, I lashed out, my fist connecting with Jason's face with a sickening thud. The sight of him, barely older than a mere boy, only served to stoke the flames of my fury, my blows raining down upon him with merciless precision. Despite the futile attempts of our neighbors to intervene, I pressed on, my anger unchecked as I delivered blow after punishing blow. By the time I was finally restrained, Jason lay battered and broken, his hand mangled and his body bruised. But even as I stood amidst the wreckage of my own making, I felt no sense of remorse, no pang of guilt for the violence I had wrought. For in that moment, as I surveyed the chaos around me, I knew that I had finally severed the ties that bound me to Kim and her deceit. Returning to the solitude of my own home, I set about the task of reclaiming what little remained of my shattered life. Wedding pictures were torn asunder, memories of happier times consigned to the dustbin of history. Yet, even as I sought solace in the quiet of my own thoughts, the clamor of the outside world intruded upon my solitude. The arrival of the private investigator, bearing news of Kim's desperate plea for forgiveness, served as a stark reminder of the tangled web of emotions that still bound us together. The surrealness of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks when I heard the gatekeeper's words. Kim's parents, the very people who should have instilled in her a sense of decency and responsibility, were waiting at my door, begging for forgiveness on her behalf. It was a twisted display of familial loyalty, one that left a bitter taste in my mouth. I couldn't help but marvel at the sheer audacity of it all. How could they, in good conscience, accompany their daughter to plead for clemency after her flagrant betrayal? It was a testament to the depths of delusion and denial that had permeated our relationship, a stark reminder of the extent to which I had allowed myself to be manipulated and deceived. But even as I recoiled from the spectacle unfolding before me, a sense of clarity began to dawn. No longer would I allow myself to be cast in the role of the hapless victim, the passive bystander in my own undoing. It was time to reclaim my agency, to assert myself in the face of adversity and injustice. And so, after a somber lunch at home, I ventured out into the world once more, determined to take control of my own narrative. The whispers and gossip that followed in the wake of my earlier confrontation were but a distant echo, mere background noise in the grand symphony of my revenge. With a sense of grim determination, I set about the task of procuring the damning evidence that would serve as the centerpiece of my retaliation. Armed with a stack of incriminating photographs, I returned home, intent on plastering them across the neighborhood for all to see. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As I awoke to the clamor of voices outside my gate the next morning, I realized with a sinking heart that my carefully laid plans had been thwarted. Kim and my neighbor stood before me, the evidence of her transgressions held aloft like a banner of shame. In that moment, as Kim pleaded for mercy and forgiveness, I felt a surge of conflicting emotions wash over me. Anger, betrayal, and a profound sense of disillusionment warred within me, each vying for dominance in the tumult of my mind. But amidst the chaos, a quiet resolve began to take root. No longer would I be swayed by the tears and pleas of a woman who had betrayed my trust so callously. No longer would I allow myself to be manipulated by the whims of others. The audacity of Kim and her parents to suggest that I should bear the burden of shame for her infidelity left me incredulous. Why should I, the victim of her deceit, be the one forced to hide my face in shame? It defied all logic, and I made sure to convey my indignation to them in no uncertain terms. Those pictures, circulated without my consent, were not only deeply personal, but also highly provocative, some bordering on scandalous. To insinuate that I would stoop so low as to leak them to the public was not only insulting, but utterly absurd. Before shutting my gate, I made it abundantly clear that I would not be scapegoated for Kim's indiscretions. After a hearty breakfast and a moment of preparation for the day ahead, I made my way to meet with my lawyer. Divorce proceedings were already underway, a testament to my unwavering determination to sever all ties with Kim and move forward with my life. I refused to allow her betrayal to dictate my future, and I was resolved to ensure that she wouldn't walk away with a single penny of my hard-earned money. Throughout the day, my phone buzzed incessantly with calls from Kim and her parents, each one met with resolute silence on my end. I refused to be drawn into their manipulative games, steadfast in my refusal to engage with those who sought to shift the blame onto me. It was a stark departure from the accommodating demeanor I had adopted in the past, a clear indication that I had finally shed the role of the passive bystander. Reflecting on my past actions, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of regret for the ways in which I had allowed myself to be mistreated. From ceding control of our wedding to Kim's family, to tolerating her manipulative behavior, I had been a willing participant in my own degradation. But no more. You see, in the course of our relationship, Kim and I had exchanged more than just words and affection. We had shared the most intimate details of our lives, including sensitive information such as bank pins. It was a testament to the depth of our connection, a symbol of the trust that had once defined our union. And yet, in light of Kim's betrayal, that very trust had been shattered beyond repair. It was a bitter pill to swallow, a stark reminder of the folly of placing one's faith in another, only to have it trampled underfoot. But even in the depths of despair, a flicker of determination ignited within me, a resolve to turn the tables on the one who had wronged me so grievously. Armed with the knowledge of Kim's financial affairs, I saw an opportunity to exact a measure of retribution, to strike back in a manner that would leave her reeling. And so, as I gathered her belongings in the wake of our shattered relationship, I stumbled upon a key piece of the puzzle, an ATM card bearing her name. Instead of succumbing to the urge to destroy it, I saw it for what it truly was, a weapon in my arsenal, a means to reclaim what was rightfully mine. With a steely resolve, I marched to the bank, every step fueled by a simmering rage that threatened to consume me whole. And there, in the hallowed halls of financial institutions, I enacted my revenge, draining every last cent from Kim's accounts, including the funds entrusted to her by her unsuspecting customers. It was a moment of catharsis, a fleeting victory in the face of overwhelming betrayal. And as I walked away from the bank, my pockets bulging with the spoils of my retribution, I knew that the battle was far from over. But with every dollar withdrawn, every account emptied, I felt a sense of justice restored, a small triumph in the face of unfathomable loss. As she futilely reaches out to me through her parents' phone, little does she know that every attempt at reconciliation only serves to deepen her impending downfall. The substantial sum I've siphoned from her accounts will serve as ammunition in the impending legal battle, a resource to fund my pursuit of justice and closure. But my plans for retribution extend far beyond mere financial recompense. No, I've only just begun to unravel the web of deceit that Kim has woven around me. With each passing day, I find myself consumed by a burning desire to make her pay for the years of disrespect and manipulation I've endured. And so, as I plot my next move, I'm acutely aware of the need to maintain a semblance of normalcy in my life. Amidst the chaos of divorce proceedings and clandestine schemes, I must not lose sight of my responsibilities, both personal and professional. For while the pursuit of vengeance may offer a temporary reprieve from the pain, it is ultimately through perseverance and diligence that true healing will come. But before I delve into the intricacies of my grand design, I must take a moment to express my gratitude to each and every one of you who has followed my journey thus far. Your unwavering support and encouragement have been a beacon of light in the darkness, reminding me that I am not alone in this tumultuous ordeal. The revelation of Jason's proximity, mere steps away from our home, was a bitter pill to swallow. How could I have been so oblivious to the fact that the very person who had betrayed me was living in such close quarters? We had noticed the arrival of a new neighbor, but never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that he would be entangled in my personal turmoil. What stings the most is the realization that Jason is significantly younger than me, adding insult to injury. It's a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of human desires, leaving me questioning what it is that women truly seek in a partner. Kim's betrayal with a younger man, motivated by nothing more than fleeting pleasure, serves as a harsh indictment of the sanctity of marriage. But amidst the anguish and resentment, there lingers a nagging question. Why is it so difficult for individuals to seek a divorce when they are no longer satisfied in their marriage? If Kim had expressed her discontent and desire to move on, I would have readily granted her request without hesitation. Respect, after all, is earned through honesty and integrity, not deceit and betrayal. Cheating in my eyes is the coward's way out, an act of selfishness that belies a lack of respect for the sanctity of marriage and the feelings of one's partner. The fact that Kim would brazenly carry on an affair under my own roof, while enjoying the comforts of our shared life, only serves to deepen the wound of betrayal. Determined to confront Jason, and confront him I did. Despite the initial difficulty in gaining access to him at his workplace, I persevered, fueled by a righteous anger that burned within me. For too long had I allowed myself to be deceived and manipulated, and now it was time to hold those responsible to account. Jason's apology fell upon deaf ears as I stood before him, a towering figure of barely restrained fury. The sight of him, cowering before me with his arm in a cast and a noticeable limp, brought a grim satisfaction to my heart. It was a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions, a physical testament to the reckoning that had befallen him at my hands. As he stammered out his feeble excuses, attempting to absolve himself of guilt by claiming ignorance, I felt a surge of contempt rising within me. His assertion that Kim had spun a web of lies, painting me as her cousin, only served to deepen my disdain for both of them. It was clear that Jason, like Kim, had been all too willing to believe the convenient falsehood she had concocted, a willing participant in her deceit. Despite his professed remorse, I could not bring myself to pity him. Ignorance, I realized, was no excuse for complicity. If Jason had harbored even an ounce of integrity, he would have questioned the veracity of Kim's claims, delving deeper to uncover the truth. But instead, he had chosen to turn a blind eye, allowing himself to be ensnared in her web of deceit. Yet, despite the betrayal and humiliation I had endured at their hands, I found myself unwilling to stoop to their level. I had already administered my own brand of justice, delivering a beating that left Jason battered and broken. There was no need for further retribution. I had already proven my point. And so, with a disdainful glance, I dismissed Jason from my thoughts, turning my attention instead to the task at hand. With Kim's deceit laid bare before me, I knew that the time had come to sever all ties with her once and for all. And as I left the lobby, leaving Jason to contemplate the consequences of his actions, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction knowing that justice, in its own way, had been served. Jason's unexpected confession caught me off guard. He claimed he wasn't interested in dating a married woman, which was surprising considering my intention was to persuade him to end things with Kim. Yet, to my astonishment, Jason had already taken the initiative to break off their relationship, sparing me the trouble. It was almost comical how things had played out without my intervention. Despite Jason's profuse apologies, I saw no reason to engage with him any further. His actions had already spoken volumes, and I had no desire to dwell on the matter any longer. The news of Jason and Kim's breakup brought a sense of satisfaction, though I sought confirmation from my private investigator to ensure it was indeed true. True to his word, Jason had severed ties with Kim, affirming my belief that justice had been served. Fast forward 2 weeks from my encounter with Jason, and I found myself ambushed at my workplace by none other than Kim herself. Her dramatic display, dropping to her knees and threatening to strip naked if I didn't forgive her, left me dumbfounded. The audacity of her attempt to emotionally manipulate me was astounding, though I remained steadfast in my resolve. Upon returning home, I found that the divorce papers were ready, a stark reminder of the finality of our relationship. Without hesitation, I signed them, eager to bring an end to this chapter of my life. However, Kim's refusal to sign the papers and her subsequent demand for the return of her missing money only served to prolong the ordeal. Her pleas fell on deaf ears as I stood firm in my decision. I denied any involvement in the disappearance of her funds, unwilling to entertain her manipulative tactics any longer. If Kim wished to prolong the divorce proceedings and face the consequences of her actions, it was her prerogative. In the midst of the chaos, I found solace in the company of my new girlfriend, a welcome distraction from the turmoil of my past. Our relationship was lighthearted and carefree, a stark contrast to the tumultuous marriage I had endured. Though the journey had been arduous, I had emerged victorious, content in the knowledge that I had exacted the perfect revenge.